Hey, we're live. This is Keith with How to Build Your Own Home. And I got baby girl here on my lap, just hanging out. She's wanting to climb all over the table here. So I'm going to try to control that as best I can. We're going to take a lot of questions. People are already coming on. But I want to start off with a really interesting question. And I call it the biggest trick of the trade. Okay. If you were a builder, what would be the biggest trick of the trade as a builder? Now, keep in mind that as an owner builder, you're looking to get into your forever home. Okay. How many of you have heard that from people? Oh, this is our forever home. Well, the biggest trick of the trade for builders is we don't have a forever home. Am I right, Kenzie?
Yep.
She said yes, and she knows why, and she's going to come sit on the seat and explain why. The biggest trick of the trade in the construction industry is that builders, as part of their revenue, as part of their wealth building strategy, is that if it's kind of slow and they've got the capital, they will end up taking some of that capital and rolling it into a spec build. Now, what's a spec build?
A spec build is there's no homeowner. You build it and you sell it.
You build it and you sell it. But if you can't sell it, then what do you do as a builder? You move into it. You've expensed it, you move into it, and then if you do stay in it for 2 years, that's your primary residence, then you can sell that without any capital gains.
Well, no, there's a limit.
There's a limit.
250 for a single and 250 each, so 500,000.
It's up to 500,000.
Yeah, up to
Yeah,
500,000
for a married couple
On profit.
on the
Just
profit,
the profit.
Yeah.
on the gain.
Yeah.
on the game.
So, which is not bad. It's a really good deal situation.
Mhm.
And so I've seen a lot of builders build a home, move into it, and every 2 years they literally build a new home. All right. My daughter's been doing that. All right. But she's
No, I
trying.
haven't built.
Well, she moved into one, sold it, moved into other ones.
Yeah.
It's hopping, skipping, and jumping. Okay. There's actually.
I've been doing remodels.
Yeah, she's been doing remodels. Well, let me tell you something about building wealth. And every financial person, I'm not a financial advisor, but the ones I listen to, they talk about taking capital and putting it on a race, a market, something, and then they move it from horse to horse during the course of the race. Most of us think that we're going to get wealthy if we put it on the right horse, we let it ride, and if that horse wins, we win big. But not necessarily, because during the race, smart people are moving their money from horse to horse. Well, I'll bet that one's going to be third, and I'll bet that one's going to be second. It doesn't matter who's first, is that they're making money through the entire process. That's how a lot of builders actually go from house to house. And I've seen really smart investors do this too. Big subdivision comes in, it's going to be multi-phases, 9, 7 different phases. And people buy a lot, build on the lot, and then they sell it, and then they get another lot and sell it. And those those turns of profit are extremely powerful, especially as an owner builder, because what? You're avoiding the builder fee. You're avoiding a lot of those other extra costs, and you've got control over those. So therefore, you can actually turn some revenue quite easily. That's really the biggest trick of the trade. So why do I say this? I say this because if you're an owner builder, when you're done, what's the number one thing owner builders want to do?
Have equity.
They want to have equity, but they say, I can do that again. Believe it or not, I'm talking to a lot of owner builders. They says, I'm so experienced. I've been through the gamut on the whole thing. As I wish I had that experience before.
Yeah.
Well, now you've got that experience. I know a builder in Colorado, another builder in Idaho. They're now have the capital, so they're actually created a building company, a development company, and they're building homes. But keep in mind, as owner builders, you can't sell it within 2 years. But who polices that? I've never seen anyone get in trouble for that. But that's what you can do.
But be careful, because there were some owner builders and they're videoing all their processing, all their building and everything, and the city watches their videos and then sends them fines and fees because they see they do something wrong.
Yeah. So be careful. The community is watching. All right. I'm very careful about what I say and what I show on a lot of my posts, because I've got 3, 4, sometimes 5 jurisdictions that are actually permitting that build. And so some of them are watching, some of them don't even know what I'm doing. So when I go into the county, I don't say, yeah, I'm a really cool YouTuber. You ought to go watch my videos. I don't say that. Anyway, I wanted to drop that on your hat. Try not to get so locked into this is going to be your forever home. It may not be. What would happen if you build that home and you suddenly found out that you had an additional $250,000 of equity that you didn't see was there? What would you do? As a smart business person, you grab that equity and go roll into something, and then you'd have less debt. I've seen a lot of people do this where they do the first home, get some equity, could be 125, 150, 100 more in equity, take that, sell it and roll it into something else. And then by the third, fourth time, they almost have the home more than half paid off that third or fourth time. That's the trick of the trade. That's what builders do. And I wanted to let you know that's the big secrets out of the closet now. That's what a lot of builders do. So think about that as you proceed. I know a lot of owner builders have made that connection, and now they're actually utilizing that opportunity to roll it in and roll it in and roll it in. So let's take some questions real quick here and get going.
I would say the hardest part, though, about that is just getting to your first one. Like the hardest part is getting to just the first one, and then after that, it's just a lot more. It's easy. Yeah, behind us, there's an image there. That's really my first one. I've done other specs with other investors, but that's the first one I've done really on my own, financed my own, with the help of my daughter. So. Oh, he's not happy. So take her. Let's take some questions here. We got Kai, welcome back, Kai. He says, which vendor or supplier do you use for drip edge and window flashing? Very, very, very good question. I don't use a vendor. I use a subcontractor who does soffit and fascia install on a home. And they have a bending unit that they pull up in a trailer, and they have coiled material there, and hopefully it's an aluminum. And they will manufacture that on site. And they will get the coil from whatever place you recommend, but I do use aluminum. I don't use galvanized metal, because galvanized metal is much harder to bend, and they don't typically do that. But aluminum, they will do that. And they can make that little drip edge perfectly for you for your window if you want that extra protection over the windows, that flashing. They'll also do it for you can buy the drip edge just about anywhere, but I prefer the aluminum. And there's a lot of drip edge out there that's galvanized, and it has a capacity for rusting over time. How many roofs have I seen and taken up, and that drip edge is literally rotted because the galvanized portion just was wet too many times and it corroded. But you won't find that with aluminum. So any soffit and fascia guy or rain gutter guy that does seamless gutters and they're all aluminum, they can actually manufacture that for you. Okay, next one. Michael. Oh, sorry.
Okay, Michael. What are the top 3 game-changing building products for 2025?
2025.
What would you say?
I still believe in our aluminum shingles. I think that's just, I think you're going to see more and more of the aluminum shingles, especially over tile.
Yep.
Another product.
Exterior products are really on the rise, and you're going to see more and more of that, from hardy material that's got a Class A fire rating to the windows. I think are going to be a game changer. More and more people will go to full metal, which could be either aluminum or galvanized metal, but aluminum windows are going to be more and more the thing, because if a hot fire comes in, the only thing that's not protected is that vinyl plastic on that window. So if they go full metal and then they have mineral wool on the outside of that, now you've got a full Class A fire rated home, because glass is itself a Class A fire rated situation with a double pane window. It's really going to do a number on keeping some flames out, which is why you see most fires. It's weird we talk about fires, but it's a big issue. It's a big issue. So many people lost $1 million homes because they were poorly designed. And I think a lot of people are looking for passive solar. They're looking for energy efficiency. They're looking for Class A fire rated homes. That picture you saw of that home behind the scenes before we went into our living room here,
that complete home is about 95% fully exterior Class A fire rating. Class A meaning it's the highest rating you can have, multiple hours of fire rating before it even penetrates the home. So I think those things are, and also seismic issues and wind and hurricane resistance. All of those is structural integrity. Everyone's looking for that because they're seeing homes just demolished in earthquakes, demolished in high wind, demolished in fire, and nobody ever thinks about those things. And that's what's going to be on everyone's mind, not because of last year, but because of what's coming every year. So to me, that's going to be a big plus. Okay. Okay. AJ Martinez, 1026. Should I be installing a radiant barrier and air gap with metal roof in North Texas on Barndo? Going with lighter color R panel and rock wool in attic. Thanks. Radiant barrier. You can, but is that radiant barrier going to go underneath a standing seam roof? If it is, what's going to happen is that standing seam roof is going to be a metal roof, more than likely galvanized. That's going to be conductive, and that's going to conduct right through the entire roof structure. So putting a radiant barrier underneath that might or might not work. When you're dealing with radiant heat, it just seems to conduct itself. It's like conductive heat. Here's a good example. I can stand in the living room. I can have a fire going, okay, and I can feel the fire even 3 or 4 feet away. All right, and that's radiant heat. Conductive heat is where you've got actual contact. So when you've got a metal roof on top of your roof and it's in direct contact with that sheeting material, that conductive heat is going to work its way into the house. And I don't think that a radiant barrier is necessarily going to help with that. The reason why we like aluminum shingles is because that aluminum is on the outside of the sheeting. So it's got a refractive quality to it and it's pushing that heat, that refractive light back out in the atmosphere. The sooner you can stop that on the outside, the better. Now, the radiant heat for you might help in a cold climate. So if you're in a cold climate, that radiant heat underneath the sheeting, if you do put it there, would be beneficial because it's going to keep heat in during the winter. See how the climate and the weather always affect how you're going to do things? And I couldn't see if you were going to do in Texas. You're in North Texas. It's going to be a little colder there, so it might be beneficial for you. But you can talk with a local building official and ask them. They'll give you a better beat on your weather and issues. The other issue is your high winds that you can get up there. You're real close to Tornado Alley. So I would actually beef up my trusses. I'd actually put better hurricane straps on there, and I'd put a thicker sheeting on there. And I personally wouldn't be putting standing seam on because it doesn't have the wind thrust capacity like an aluminum shingle roof. So look into that. That's something I'd be looking at my eaves and wind gusts and lift potential on the whole roof. So I hope that answers your question there. Okay, next one. Michael, have you built any homes with Unico HVAC system? Thoughts on Unico compared to other options? I don't know Unico, but if it's a secondary market brand, you want to find its primary market brand. For example, if what's the number one brand for a couple of them for HVAC units? Hers, not hers, but there's a couple of brands. A lot of these brands are secondary, meaning the main maker lets them white label it on their manufacturer. But if it's original to them, they're the original manufacturer, then you're going to want to look at the warranty, and then you're going to want to look at the customer satisfaction. And that should all be transparent. But if it's a split off and they just white label them from another manufacturer, they're just a secondary market. Do they cut corners on that? And so you might want to look into that. There's a lot of things in the HVAC industry people don't know about. And so you want to just find out who the original manufacturer of the unit is.
Train Bryant.
I'm looking at what.
That Bryant is one of them, and they do a lot of resale. Bryant does a lot of resale under different names, and they do that because, well, look at it this way. You're in partnership with a lot of other Bryant dealers, okay? But you can manufacture and sell that under a different name to somebody else for cheaper, and not affect your contracts you have with your suppliers. See how that works? If you're a manufacturer in some different country, you're going to want to manufacture as much as you want, and you don't care the label that's under, to be honest with you. So if it's a secondary market, I'd rather buy it from the main market, whoever has the best warranty.
We put Carrier.
Carrier, Bryant, there's a
I
couple
had to look
of
it
those.
up. I couldn't remember what we put, but
Yeah,
we put
Carrier.
Carrier. in our
Yeah, we
house.
do Carrier in a lot of ours. So just do some research and find out if there's a secondary market. And if that's the case, then have they cut corners on that original? So look into that. Okay, next question. I could talk forever on that subject. I tried to get the 24-inch mesh from Roofer Supply in St. George. They said they only have 6 or 30-inch, but the size is a different material. And do you overlap the seams for deck? Yeah, you do 4 inches, 3 inches at least. They have a product there, just as a side note, that's fiberglass, not the cotton stuff. Ask them if they have some more rolls of the fiberglass. It's stiffer, more rigid, much easier to deal with, and it doesn't have folds on it. But don't try to do that whole deck with 6 inch. It'll drive you nuts. 30 inches is not so bad, but and it's a 4-inch roll, and it's rigid. And I did it on a deck, and it just primed it just perfectly, and it gave a nice cover. And it's not what the manufacturer recommends, but I don't care. It had the same porous capacity, so I could push the primer right through it, and it bonded really nicely to the deck as a primer. So, okay, next question. Yasin, I got the architectural plans to build a home on 7 acres, planning to do homesteading, how to plan the house location and landscaping, and who is the right person to hire for that? Yourself. Just go out there and sit in your truck or your car and imagine where the home you want it to be, and then ask yourself just a couple of questions. Do I have proper drainage from the home? Do I have a positive feed on septic water to drain from that home? And can I put the septic on a lower elevation? If you ask those 2 questions, then you're in a good slot. Then the other questions would be accessibility, views, stuff like that. And then one of the last things you want to ask about is how far is the power and water and gas from your build site. Now, if it's too far, power companies are going to charge you more, because it may be cheaper to put aluminum wiring in, which is a big fat wire like that. But if it's so far away, you have more resistance and you lose power. So they'll charge you, we're going to put copper in there, has better conductivity, but it's more expensive. And these things add up. And you try to stay within 150 feet of where that power source is. In most jurisdictions, if it's longer than that, they'll say, I'm sorry, that's too far out. We're going to make you put the meter on the front of the road here, which means you're going to have to be, if you want to turn off the power of the house, you got to come all the way out to the road to turn off power. So those are various things to think about, but I hope you wrote those things down and to put them in the order that I gave them, and that would give you the best approach.
Mhm.
Okay, Marcella, how would you design the attic space of an omniblock home in Houston, Texas? Vented or unvented attic? Also thoughts on ERV, dehumidifier, type of insulation, etc. You deal with some humidity there. I don't know what part of Texas you're in. You're going to deal with some humidity. That omniblock is going to keep, literally, it's probably the perfect seal because it's an 8-inch block. So if there's moisture buildup in the inside, well, it has a place to go slowly into the block structure. Same thing outside. If there's high humidity, it's just nasty, uncomfortable outside, it's not going to work its way all the way inside the home. That 8-inch block is going to be able to absorb and dry out any moisture you have. As far as attic space on the block home, you can just do some attic trusses on top. My daughter and I we love attic space because it's the quickest, most affordable square footage you can have. And one of these days we need to do a cross comparison of the same main level home with the exact same footprint for a basement, and then compare it with the same additional square footage upstairs. And I'm willing to bet we could be cheaper going upstairs. So if you can put some attic trusses in there, that would be the best avenue for you. However, keep in mind You're in Texas. You deal with some higher winds than we do. So that attic is going to be a wind sail. And if you're in an area where it's close to Tornado Alley, that's where a lot of people want to go downstairs and do a basement. So if I was in a high tornado area like that, I might want to go down if the soils allow for it and if it's affordable, and keeping the profile on that roof as low as I possibly could, or beef up the roof to such a degree that they can withstand high winds. So again, these are all things I think about on the environment and where you're building. So, but insulation, you can just do a blow-in. If you do, I don't know about the ERV, dehumidifier. Rockwool is a great insulation because it's going to avoid mildew in that particular area, and it doesn't absorb water at all. So if you need a dehumidifier for health reasons, then yeah, think about that. But you won't need that with an omniblock home, not at all. So I wouldn't even put money into that. Okay, next question. I'll let you read that one, Kins.
Peyton, thoughts on your program as someone who travels full time for a living? Would it be too much in terms of time, too hard to manage?
Not if you have got a camera on site.
Mm-hmm.
If you got a camera on a site, 2 cameras on site, and you pay that fee, and it's a live feed, and you pay the extra amount, go to Volker or whatever. There's an upgraded camera that's got a 24/7 live feed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, if you can see who's there and when they're there, you can time everything else out. You don't even need to be there. And you just stop by once a week. So don't try to do it without a camera. It will ease you. It will calm you down. It will give you confidence, and you'll see that, yeah, things are working out. Things are there. Materials are there and stuff like that. But I'd get 2 cameras, and I'd get the upper grade version of that, which gives you live feed.
Yeah. And
Okay.
I'm constantly texting pictures to subs, and they're constantly texting me pictures, asking questions, and FaceTime. Yeah, you can do things when you're away.
Yeah, and if you ask them to send some pictures of stuff, it'd be great.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't get worried about that. The only thing you want to be there for is the foundation floor and the framing. Try to time it so maybe you have a week off that you're able to take off during a heavy time of framing, and you can be there and help people out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's do that. I see that's a problem. Yeah, I'm okay with that. You can make quick calls because you have more questions on foundation and framing than you do on any other subcontractor.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can time it so you're there when those things are happening, great. And framing on an average 2,700 square foot home is maybe 2 weeks. On something larger that's 4,700 square feet, it's about a month. The more complex you get, it could be a month and a half. So just keep that in mind, and you want to try to time it so you've got that time that's most precious to be there on the job. Okay. Let's see. More on your program. You limit access after 14 months. Yes, I do. Should I wait until I'm closer to build and buy? No. If you run out of time, just message us through the platform and we'll give you an additional 14 months. We do that because the platform requires it or suggests it. And then also it makes people feel like, yeah, I need to use this rather than it be there forever. So just message us through the message program and we'll give you an extension. But get it now and start now because there's too much information that's going to focus you and organize you and keep you on the straight and narrow. Okay. Best way to air seal garage from bonus room above. Good question. Don't have any lights or any penetrations. The biggest leak is your light fixtures and your outlets for your garage door opener. And a lot of times when those are installed, you can put some spray foam inside there. That would help stop the leaks. And any lights or light fixtures that you have, the J-box or the housing for the light fixture that you'll have there, you can also seal that up too. And that would stop some airflow from getting up in there. That's the best route to do. And then I like, if you're dealing with sound, a bonus room above, it might get loud in that garage. And so a double type of insulation is kind of nice. So I do what's called a sound tech, which is 3 inches thick. And they stuff it up in there. Let's say your rafter is 18 inches or so. They stuff it up in the top of that. And then they net and blow the rest. And so I got a small air gap between the thicker insulation up top and the net and blow down below. And that actually helps with stopping a little bit of airflow to some degree, but it also helps to kill down noise and deaden noise. So that's kind of the best route to go. Watch those penetrations in that ceiling. That's going to be your nightmare, especially in very, very cold climates. Okay. Was it Tri-V?
Try V.
Tri-V. I know you recommend HVAC in the envelope of home, but my HVAC guy says that will be only installed. That
He will only install an attic, and that it's the norm in Southern Utah.
Thoughts. Oh, that's the norm.
That's the norm in Southern Utah.
Oh.
Oh my
I
goodness.
actually, driving in my new subdivision, I actually, none of them did attic trusses, and all of their furnaces were mounted in the attic.
Right.
Oh,
But
it's gonna overwork.
it's
That
Yeah.
attic, and you saw
it's
that
just
can
so
get
hard
up,
to get to.
that can get up to 140 to 160 degrees Fahrenheit.
Mhm.
Okay. I don't care what kind of furnace it is and how great it is. It's going to fight this. It's going to fight that heat. It's not going to be smart.
But it is
So-
right in all of affordable housing. Yes, your furnace is in the attic.
Yeah.
Like in my house right now, my furnace is in the attic. But once you get more towards, I'd say at least what $800,000 homes, you'll see a mechanical closet. It is the I don't know.
And I would say if you're building your home and you can have it in conditioned space, do
Yeah.
it because it's going to be more beneficial for your home. It won't overwork it.
Yeah, if
Even
you have
better
the
quote.
decision, yeah, you should definitely have a
So
mechanical closet.
it's the cheap way. Everybody does it, but that doesn't mean it's the best way for the HVAC system.
I'll give you need to message us and I'll give you our HVAC guy's number.
Yeah.
And he'll
He'll do
just-
what you want.
send me
Yeah.
your email or something. How do I
Yeah.
get that? I'll
Put it in the comments. Oh no, you don't want to put it in the comments.
Yeah, we can, if you're new, look up Patriot Air.
look up Patriot Air.
Patriot Air.
Patriot HVAC.
Your name's Paul. Reach out to Paul, mention our name,
I heard him.
and then, and he'll do what you want or give you some feedback on getting that within conditioned space.
Yeah.
And he knows that's how I build. And so he loves it. We've done some real complicated mechanical rooms that were inside conditioned space on the main living. And some of those homes, the only thing we ran up above the attic was just a couple of ducts. But those are fully insulated and they're underneath all the fluffy stuff. But that main HVAC unit is not. It's inside conditioned space. And there are some programs with some states that actually give you a bonus or even some rebates if you put your HVAC system inside conditioned space. For example, if you're building a home with the USDA and you put it in conditioned space, they actually require it. Okay. And I just finished one and we put the entire HVAC system within conditioned space. So it's the higher value, it's the higher proposition, and it's the more efficient design. And so when a builder says the norm, but the norm is what the least common denominator thinks. It's not what the higher value mind actually thinks. So look at that. If you want to do a consult, reach out to me and I do a 1-hour consult and I can look at your plans. We might be able to figure out a way to put that inside conditioned space. I just finished designing a home for a client and we had two mechanical rooms that we worked inside the design. And it would be just phenomenal. And that's part of our design. It's part of what a builder should do to work that in. Too many builders get homes designed or they start building a home and the mechanical has never even been considered at all. And it's just ad hoc. It's just slapped together. Drive through communities, you'll see HVAC units on roofs. Oh, let's just put it on the roof. How ugly is that? So, okay, next question.
Not energy efficient.
Yeah. Okay. Doug, can several mini split heat pump units replace a ducted central HAC and furnace on a new build? Can they provide enough heat during moderately cold winters supplemented by a gas fireplace? They can, but it depends on where you're building. Okay. Now I build in a very hot, dry, temperate climate. But if you're building in North Dakota, you don't want those mini splits on the wall or even on the ceiling, you want your heating as low to the ground as you can. And so that's where mini splits have their breaking point. They're great in southern, cooler or hotter climates, but they're not nearly as efficient in more cold northern climates, because there you want that heat as close to the floor as you possibly can. So, but yes, the house just next to me where my mother lives, that's all. I have a forced air system, all right, but I actually went and put mini splits in through the entire building. All right. And so she can control the temperature at night when she goes to sleep. She can control it in another room, and it's very efficient. So you have to weigh it and find out what your weather and temperate climate zone you're in and all that, and even talk with some good HVAC people, and they give you some good feedback. Okay. Hannah Banana.
I like it.
I like that. Mackenzie's always laughing. Can you go over exactly what's in your self-managed package? My husband and I are very interested. The self-managed package, if you're to purchase that, actually comes with the First Steps course. Okay. And the First Steps course is probably very, very, very important, because it helps you. That's my dog. That helps you determine cost per square foot. The module on there, it's super, super informative. And the First Steps course points you in the right direction. So the self-managed course includes that. Now, when you get to the self-managed course, it has about 70 checklists with video instruction. It has download section. It has tons of checklists. And then on the download section, it has a budget that's probably the most impressive, easy, fully detailed budget you can ever imagine. And then there's a lot of other stuff, subcontractor agreements, you name it, it's all there. Plus a lot of coursework on building science and just tons of stuff. The neat thing is when plumbing comes in, say rough plumbing, you print down the checklist and you go to the job site and you look for a couple of key metrics on plumbing. And you say, did you get that done? Oh, no, we didn't do a pressure test. Can you get a pressure test and make sure, and I'll call inspection when you're ready. So those checklists help you become informed. So when you walk on a job site, you're ready to go. Like framing has 4 or 5 different checklists. You print them all down and you can look at the checklist, and then it helps you when you get to a job site, what to look for. Okay. And then, of course, it has video instruction. And here's what's also cool. You can message inside there on any module you have, and you can ask questions, and I will respond to those questions. And you'll see as you're going through the course, there's a lot of Q&A that's already taken place on a lot of those, where students have messaged me on that module, and then I document it. So people see a lot of, my wife wanted me to move to another platform, but I can't because I have all this content, the additional content that I've created inside the platform. So that's really where it's at, and it's invaluable. And I think it's the best on the market. And it comes from 20 years of a teaching background, married up with about 25 years of building background. So those are the 2 best factors you can imagine. So I think it's great. Do it, buy it. It's great. And it's affordable too.
And also we have a Discord group. So if you get the self-managed program, you can get the Discord group.
I just pointed here that Mackenzie's always laughing, and she's always laughing.
So and Discord group's really good in the fact that we have a whole bunch of different sections to talk about, like problems, and then video updates with everybody. Also, we have it separated to group people together if you're in the Northeast, the Southeast, Midwest, the West. So you can talk to people, maybe trade subcontractors or get-togethers. We also have events on there. So this Discord group is really good.
Yeah. Good question, though. Thanks. You made us pitch our own thing, so it was great. You gave us an excuse to pitch our own thing. Okay, next question. That was Hannah Banana.
Hannah Banana.
Yeah. Kevin Tui, what opposition to or specific preference do you have for floor heating? I can do my own mud work.
Oh, like in the tile?
Tile, probably. I think mud work could be concrete.
Oh, underneath the foundation.
Specific as you have for floor heating. I don't have a specific floor preference. The only areas that I actually try to put floor heating are in bathrooms under tile.
Yeah, that's
And
the only spot we've done.
that's the only spot in our neck of the woods where we do that, because it's so efficient and it's so nice to wake up, go into the bathroom, and it's a warm bathroom on top of that, and you walk on the tile and it's got some warm touch to it. And also laundry rooms, maybe kitchens would be nice if you have tile in there.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, that's the only area. And your tile guy's an experienced one who's done a lot of work, like our tile guy. They install it for you, and they just run the electrical into the wall system, and then the electrician takes it from there. So that's the only area that I would be, my specific preference would be under tile. Okay. All right. Next question. Okay. KJ Knapp. I know not Knapp. Sorry, Knapp. Okay. Would you go with the spray foam insulation or mineral wool? That's an obvious question for me. Mineral wool. Some people tell me to go with spray foam, and others say stay away. I'm so torn. Well, I will solve that problem for you. Yeah,
He's going to decide right now.
If you use spray foam, I'll ban you from the site, and I won't.
No.
And I'll refund your money. And no, use the mineral wool. It's a superior insulation on too many fronts. The only reason why people go with spray foam because they like the closed cell nature of it, and it's a permanent, full, complete membrane seal. But you know how I am about sealing things up too well. It leaves room for a lot of error and mistakes and possible damage to your home. Mm-hmm. And you may not see that damage for a very long time. But with the mineral wool, it's open. It's got some vapor permeability to it. Fireproof, literally fireproof and mold proof. So to me, it's a no-brainer. And I've seen a lot of mice eat away at foam these days. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is. They can't eat it or digest it, but their teeth they're like a beaver, and they see a piece of tree in the forest. Oh, I got to gnaw at that. And that's what mice do. They'll just gnaw at that stuff for the dumbest reason. I don't know why. So that gives you enough. Okay. Hope that helps you out. Okay. What's that?
Oh,
we don't have any questions.
Okay. Here's some interesting housekeeping. I've got the possible approval to interview a very, very, very well-known YouTuber in the lumber industry. Okay. And I'm hoping to do a interview that talks about a market outlook for the second quarter and third quarter and fourth quarter of 2025 with a lot of his insights. And this guy has a perfectly astute understanding of the cost of board feet and where the cost of lumber is going and what the futures for lumber are going to be. So I'm hoping that I can lock that in. And he happens to be the uneducated economist. So if you're interested, you can go to his channel, check out the Uneducated Economist. I follow him religiously. He's given me a lot of heads up on a lot of knowledge, and I'm hoping to interview him on the channel. And maybe we can do that on an annual or quarterly basis because we're basically trying to help the same people. All right. He's trying to help people that are either builders or trying to build, and I'm trying to do the same thing. And so hopefully we can work something out. But I'm excited. I just got some information from him, so I'm hoping that we can work something out. And if he's listening, I think he might be listening tonight. I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully we can make that happen. So I'll give you more updates on that. The other thing is if there's a product, we started a new series, and it's called Building Science Series. And we're going to go through Joe Seabrook's complete books. Can you grab me one of those books over there, Kinsey? We did our first video this week. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring in my former teaching experience, and I'm going to take this stuff here. This is Joe Seabrook's complete, volumes from structural insulated panels to cold climates, mixed climates, and mixed humid climates. I build in two of those. I build in a mixed humid climate, and I also build in a hot, dry climate. So there's not many places in the country where you actually build in those two types of climates, but I happen to build in those two types of climates. I build at 7,000 feet elevation, sometimes higher, and I build sometimes at 1,700 feet elevation, which is a low desert area. So I'm building in both those climates, and it's had to make me a better builder because of that. So we did our first post on this. It's gonna come out weekly. A first video hasn't been published yet. So one of those is going to come out once a week, and I'm going to break it down really simple because I love Joe, but he's an academic, and I'm a reformed academic. So I'm going to take some of his stuff and really simplify it and keep it really, really basic, so we don't get lost. So that's coming out, and one of those will come out once a week, and it'll be a full series. I think the first book, this one here, has 19 chapters in it. So that first series is going to be fun. We're going to have a lot of fun with that. So let's take us some more questions here. A nice little interlude there with housekeeping. Charles Keys, a senior. I'm looking to build a fourplex for Airbnb. What is a good city for that? I'm retired now. Believe it or not, you can do that in California. You can actually build a fourplex as an owner builder. Okay. So that's state law. And so any city in the state, you can do that. However, some of them are going to be more difficult to do than others. The more you can get into a rural setting or a country setting where you're dealing with a county permitting office and not a city office, that's going to be even better for you. The permitting situation is going to be more favorable to you. And then, of course, market conditions. Where's the market condition going to be? And where do you want to, you're going to have to manage that property. Is it close to where you currently live right now? And is there a good market for that? So, and you can pretty much build I'd have to find out in other states. I believe you can in the state of Utah, but in California, you can build 2 fourplexes in a 2-year period of time, if you can believe that. It's pretty amazing what some states allow you to do. But look into your jurisdictions and find out. But good question, and go for it. It's a great way to put money into something. And if you got a growing market, there's a lot of things happening in the market, and there's a lot of growth in the market, then that's going to be a good support for you for years to come as a revenue source, and probably be better than putting your money in a bank.
I just want to add, just in here in Utah, because there's a new rule that just got approved, a new bill for the state of Utah, and that's with Airbnbs. It's to give you a little bit of a history, is that people were just doing Airbnbs anywhere and everywhere. The cities, at least in St. George, started putting them together, and they were going onto sites saying, "Oh, we're going to fine you if you don't have a permit," and then they got stopped from doing that. And this new bill now allows the cities to go on and look who is doing Airbnbs that aren't getting permits. So they're requiring everybody that's doing an Airbnb to have a permit.
Or they require you to put a deed restriction on your property. And we just signed one for a client this week for an ADU. And meaning that the ADU cannot be used for Airbnb. It has to be for long-term rentals. So they're finding their way into the whole situation to get a little more control on it. And to be honest, maybe the hotels are involved in that push because we're all infringing upon their market and stuff like that.
Well, the cities just need to gather the tourist tax too, right? A lot of people are going under the radar, getting this income and stuff without paying the tourist taxes and stuff like that.
Right. And they also want to control and make sure that we have single family homes still. A lot of jurisdictions want to push for, we want owners, living, breathing families in more homes, not every home a transient person. So
yeah, and some people, they buy a home, they don't want people coming and going right next door with an Airbnb.
A lot of communities, even especially HOAs, are really frowning on it because if you have a home, you love your community, and next door it's going to be a rowdy home every weekend, and you don't want that. So that's why they're putting kind of a little bit of a control on it. But I would think in terms of not
overnight rental, long-term rental, because that's more amenable. Cities are going to be more likely to let that happen than an overnight.
And short-term rental is, at least in our area, is 29 days or less.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Here we
Okay.
go. Parker.
Dave Parker, do you cover remodeling? Yes, cover. Do I do
Cover-
remodeling?
We do remodels.
We do, as long as you don't live in the
Do you
home.
cover remodeling like in
Or
your
on our channel.
course? Oh,
Oh, yeah, the whole program is just the same for remodeling. Even the more complex the remodel, a total gut, yeah, the whole course actually is the same. You go through the same budgeting process and bidding process and everything. You may not have bidding for some aspects, but the budget will help you remind you, oh yeah, I'm going to do that. I need numbers for that and that and that. And that's the benefit, is the budget alone will help you immensely. And then it gives you a lot of insight on building science and a lot of insight on the process. So, but I don't do remodeling if you live in the home. That's the only way we do it.
yeah.
So,
I remodeled my house and I moved back in with you.
yeah.
Because I don't
Yeah.
live in the remodel.
Yeah, it's not fun when you're living in it. I'll let you read that one, sweetie.
Oh, Michael, Discord discussion are awesome. Great way to leverage the collective expertise of like-minded owner builders.
Yeah.
And I have to say, because I send those out personally from my email because the system doesn't let me do it. So look, if you're self-managed and you don't have the Discord link, look in your spam folder because sometimes it goes there. And it's a limited link. So if it's been a couple of days, I have to send you a new one. That's not my thing. That's Discord.
Yeah. And if it's a complicated question, it's technical, ask me inside the platform. And there's a reasons for that, because it's recorded and documented, and then people can always find it. But if it's a question you have that you want some collaboration on, some outside input, some contact with people that are going through the same thing you're going through, then use the Discord. So they're both there for members, and both are being used. I answer probably 15 to 20 questions a week inside the platform. The Discord is lively and things are changing every day. So they're both there for a reason, and they both have their issues. Like I had a complicated question with geology a long time ago, about 6 months ago. I got some geologists on board, even my brother who's a geologist. And we looked at the question, we looked at some of the complexity of their geotech, and we were able to answer the question with a lot of detail and a lot of references. So that's what I like about the platform. It gives me the ability to research, give you links, give you images, all kinds of stuff. And then the other one is for discussion and feedback. So you kind of need both. So, okay, I'll let you read that one. My glasses are kind of dirty.
What'd you say? Jawad? Salam? What line items do you recommend to just budget an allowance for? In addition, what are those allowances you recommend?
That's specifically for you.
Well, it's usually if you have our budget, okay. So our budget sheet, I do allowances for mostly that second half page. I've gotten to a point where I'm comfortable giving allowances, and it's always the selection. So like flooring, cabinets, countertops, and I always go on the higher side. Sometimes I think you sometimes tweak my numbers. You go back in there. But like for flooring, I'll always do $9 a square foot at least. Tile, I'll do $10 a square foot. And then it's usually the labor. Just the material, I'll always give an allowance for. But labor, I do try to get a bid for.
Yeah. It's good to get bids for stuff that's labor related, because that way you can hold them accountable for what they bid.
Yep.
But we do allowances on fixed prices, like appliances, like tile, like materials, stuff like that.
Like fixtures and hardware. So like doors, it's super. I'll just go in there and I'll do, if it's a higher end home, I'll actually do $900 a door. But on our lower end homes, I'll do $500 a door.
Higher end home, we just had a bid for $14,000 for a front door. So
No,
That
I'm
can-
talking interior doors though.
Oh, interior.
Yeah, for like a custom, and then the custom front door allowance. If it's a whole system, I'll do $14,000. If it's just a 3080, I'm gonna do $2,500.
Right.
And so yeah, those are the ones that and like hardware, I'll just go in, I'll look at the plans. Same with interior doors and hardware. I'll count, and then I'll just add my number to it and give an allowance.
And I have some word verbiage inside that budget that says allowance. You can even do that on a couple of things.
Mm-hmm.
You may not need a bid on landscaping, just put an allowance of 25,000 or something, depending upon how big it is. But you can walk to any box store and say, okay, I kind of like that fridge, but I don't know. And that fridge is $1,400. I'm going to give an allowance for $2,000. So it gives you room to select whatever you want. And then you can save during the course of the budget. The worst thing you want to do is try to undercut yourself at the budgeting phase and try to save at that point in time, because you're going to increase that budget. Then you're going to be over budget. Then you're going to have to come to a lender and say, I'm over budget. What do I do? So make sure that budget's realistic. You've got room and contingencies and allowances that are going to make it so that you're going to be under budget at the end of the job. So yeah, when you download that budget, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Even when we get 2 bids, we always put the higher bid in,
Yeah.
even if we're going to use our other guy that came in a couple grand.
Yeah,
Cheaper.
don't tell our clients that. So
Oh, should I not have said that?
no, that's fine.
Oh.
I got clients that are probably watching us right now, but they know they're in good hands. Okay, and your budget is going to put yourself in a good situation. Like I said before, I worked for a nonprofit many years, and when I came on board, all the homes were between $14,000 and $18,000 over budget. And I learned the trick. The CEO was cutting at the point of the budget. And then I came on and I would say, oh, prices are rising, lumber's up, but I knew better. I was padding it so that we weren't over budget and that families didn't have to get a second mortgage when they were done. So that's what I'm saying is if you're not smart at the start, you're going to pay for it at the end, and you don't want to do that. You want to be smart. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Next question here. I have a lot of projects to do with a mini excavator. I'm thinking about buying one and then renting it out or selling it in the future. What would you recommend? If it's a big enough project where, let's say, for example, you got some bids, and if you get some bids from an excavating company and they're close to it's like $30,000 or $25,000, then it's really a plus to buy something that might be $45,000. And so all you're left with is $15,000 that you have to either pay overtime or rent it. You just don't want to get heavy equipment that you could use that only takes an excavator a day to use, and he might charge you $2,500 or $3,500. But you bought some equipment that's $45,000 or $65,000. You want to get closer to maybe having a debt load of $10,000 to $20,000, not $40,000 or $60,000. That's easier to rent, easier to manage, and possibly easier to sell. But you have to weigh these things out. We had, I think it was 2 years ago, that I saw several jobs lined out. One of them was ours, and my bid came in at $94,000 for the excavation. When I saw that come in, and then I had 2 other jobs lined up before that, I said, I went and bought an excavator. Okay.
Yep.
And although we have a little bit to pay on that still, we've made up for it multiple times over on using that excavator, especially with all the nice I've had to move with that thing. So you have to really look at the future, what the bids are coming in. And if you don't have bids coming in that tell you where you are, then you could be up a creek. So you have to look at you have to approach it business minded and see, can I get a return on this down the road? Okay.
Jawad, I wrote your name down, so I will resend it after the live.
Okay.
Okay?
Good. Awesome. I'll let you read that one, Kenzie.
Rover, Leah, 63. Lumber topic. I don't know what that was. Lumber topic would be great. I watch his Utah channel. Thanks for reinforcing my opinion of him.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm hoping we can make that happen. So He's one of the economists that's out there that is really closer to our needs. So if I can make some cordial relationship, I think that would be great. And I'm big enough now that I think he'll say, yeah, let's help him out. Let's see if we can't cross pollinate and help each other out. So, okay. All right.
That it?
Okay. I
Okay,
think we'll end it today. We're really good, just a few minutes early. Again, go to howtobuildyourownhome.com. It's the best course online for learning to manage the build of your own home without a general contractor. And please keep this in mind. That's the biggest cost savings you're going to have in the build of a home. If you can eliminate 10 to 18%, and sometimes more, builders charge a lot of that money. That's money out of the budget that doesn't apply to the actual build of your home. So by replacing a general contractor, being an owner builder, you now have the opportunity to not just save against your budget, to maybe even put money back into your home that you didn't have in the first place. Imagine saving $85,000 or even $65,000 on the low end. And that could either be off the mortgage or added value back into their home.
Yep.
And think about that. That's why How to Build Your Own Home was created. It was simply created to help people save some money. So make sure you like and subscribe and share. We would appreciate that. And then we'll be back here next Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. You guys take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.